MCSC's Builders Livestream, where we showcase remarkable women in construction who are building better lives for everyone. Now here's your host, Lynda Ori.
Welcome to the MCSC Builders Livestream, where we showcase remarkable women in construction who are building better lives for everyone. Hello, I'm your host, Lynda Ori. In this special edition of Builders, we're going to focus on a new MCSC training program designed to empower remarkable women in construction, designed specifically for men who work with them as team members or leaders. It's called the Gender Inclusive Leadership Training, designed for male supervisors seeking to explore the challenges and opportunities that exist in building and supporting diverse teams. We will get started with a conversation with YWCA's Shift Change Coordinator to give us greater context on how the program started, how it has been received, and why it has made its way to Manitoba. But first, here is a short excerpt from a Shift Change video from male participants who took the training in Nova Scotia.
Because when you have a position of power, sometimes you need training to recognize when you're about to cross a line and check yourself.
At first, I didn't really know what to expect. I just thought it'd be like another normal leadership course. But I found it was a little more in-depth and touched more on subjects that I wasn't used to. Women in the workplace, minorities in the workplace. So yeah, I found that pretty interesting because I never took a course like that before.
Something that really stood out for me in the course was we had two female speakers come in and tell us, about their experience on the, in the field and how different things were said to them and how it gets a little tiring after, and they just want to come to work like everybody else and do their job and go home at the end of the day to their families.
Now let's welcome Tracy Boyer to Builders. Tracy is the Shift Change Coordinator at Halifax YWCA, who oversees the Gender Inclusive Leadership Training and is serving as an invaluable resource to MCSC as they bring the training to Manitoba. Tracy, welcome.
Thanks for having me here. We're very excited, this being our first site of expansion of the course. So great to be here.
It's great to have you here. So when you watch those video clips of the men who completed the Gender Inclusive Leadership Training, what's your response to their feedback?
Yeah, my response is, given all the feedback we've had from women over the years, it gives me hope for a stronger skilled trade sector, that more women will want to belong, knowing that men really care about them being involved and are doing some learning to help with that. The men kind of go from not seeing challenges that women experience on a day-to-day basis to being active allies. And this is really the change we're looking to see happen. And it's fantastic.
Absolutely. That's a great point. So the next question, can you tell us how the Shift Change training made its way to Manitoba, working with Manitoba Construction Sector Council?
Yeah, well, I should say we're proud members of the Canadian Coalition for Women in Engineering, Science, Trades and Technology, which is a national women's agency, unites women and their gender diverse people and their allies to increase women's empowerment in those sectors. And through that, we're a partner with the Manitoba Construction Sector Council on a grant that CC West is leading, funded by Women and Gender Equality. And certainly very inspired by Carol's leadership, a leading woman in an industry agency, and it felt like a really good fit. And when we talked to Carol about the program and what it was doing, out east, I think she was really inspired and found partnerships to make it happen in Manitoba. So yeah, that's how it came to be, through that network and those connections.
Yeah, I must agree with you. It's truly an inspiring initiative, and it's a great thing to see it being, put forward in Manitoba. So I have one more question for you. How do you engage male supervisors who may initially be hesitant or skeptical about participating in the gender inclusive leadership training?
Yeah, I mean, I think we try to meet people where they're at. All of this kind of training is, I sort of relate to my personal experience. As a white woman, there are things that I need to learn about, privileges that I have, issues that have happened in the past and continue to happen today that prevent some people from really having good experiences in a workplace. And so we all need training, and we all need the space to talk to each other and unpack these issues. And I think men actually haven't been given that space in the past. So it's really important. What we're trying to do is make that space and give them the opportunity to do the learning, which will make them really exceptional leaders and great allies.
Thank you for that, Tracy. Please stay with us. We're going to come back to you in a little bit on BuildHERS for a panel discussion.
Thanks so much.
Now, let's welcome our second guest today, Jillian Schofield, to BuildHERS. Jillian is an experienced project manager in the construction industry. She's also an advocate of MCSC's new gender inclusive leadership training, and she's here to explain why. Welcome, Jillian.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
It's great to have you here. As a remarkable and accomplished woman working in the construction industry, we're grateful you're here today to tell us why you're a champion of this training. Why do you think it is needed?
Yeah, thank you. I just think as we're seeing more diverse representation on site and in offices, we're seeing opportunities expand for women and newcomers and other marginalized groups, and unlocking big potential in growth for our companies as well. But this change in the landscape of diversity, equity, and inclusion is requiring us to maybe look within and find new ways to maintain that in our projects and in our day-to-day at work. So I think it's important to take a step back and think about how this change brings change for ourselves.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Any words of encouragement or advice for men who will take this training, and for women like you who work alongside them?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I know that we aren't coming to work with the direct purpose of making friends, but I think if we're all attending work with a good attitude of aiming to find respect and common ground with our peers, we'll do a better job and a safer job and be able to go home to our families much safer and healthier at the end of the day with that positive mindset and mental well-being.
Yeah, I like the aspect of the mental well-being, and that's very important. I have one more question for you. As a female leader in a traditionally male-dominated field, what role do you believe women play in advocating for gender inclusivity and supporting male colleagues in the journey towards becoming more inclusive leaders?
That's a great question. I think we can find ways of growing our own skill set and working together, finding common ground. I don't necessarily need to have everything in common with my counterparts in order to go to work every day and deliver a good project and good products. I think it's important to acknowledge that creating diverse groups you can find cohesion, and there can be common ground in differences, and having that diversity can promote good diverse thinking. So maybe when you're running into conflict and considering other people's outlooks, you can come to common ground faster and resolve things easier.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Please stay with us as we're going to come back to you again in a little bit for a panel discussion.
Awesome.
Okay. And before we bring in our next guest, who is a male leader, at a major construction company in Manitoba who is investing in the training for his team. Let's watch another couple of clips from Shift Change's video that provides more insights about the gender inclusive leadership training.
Unlike a lot of training out there, this isn't about a set of check boxes or if this then that. It's really around social emotional learning and unpacking a lot of the stereotypes and biases that we all hold dear, to be able to move the needle.
I really like that it wasn't just the shipyard either. There's a lot of other big companies in Nova Scotia that had people that were part of it.
Now let's welcome Mark Brzuskiewicz. Mark is the Director of Operations at Bird Construction in Manitoba. Welcome, Mark.
Hello, thank you for having me.
As a leader yourself, why is it important to invest in upcoming gender inclusive leadership training?
I think it starts with we know that women are very talented and are contributors. We see that here at Bird Construction. We have several of them that work for us, and we see how well they can contribute. We want to become better at attracting, but more importantly, retaining women. And then conveniently, or whether it's convenient or not, currently the industry does have a labor shortage, and it's traditionally been a male-dominated industry. And, we know that we need to look to different groups that traditionally haven't made up the construction workforce, such as women, Indigenous, minorities. And we recognize that working with these new groups, it's going to be a little different. And we want to provide the tools to our supervisors so that they can provide a positive experience for everyone.
That's absolutely interesting. The aspect of, providing a positive experience for everyone. I like that. I have another question for you. So what kind of messages does investing in gender inclusive leadership training send to all genders that work for your company?
I would say from our CEO to district management at Bird, we believe that diversity, equity, inclusion are not only important values, but essential to our success. Investing in this type of training sends a message that we are serious and committed to progress. Training and educational campaigns are actually a part of our strategic plan globally, but in addition to that, also here locally in Winnipeg. So this fits very well in what we're trying to do, and I think it sends the message of this is what we want to continue moving forward with.
Thank you so much, Mark, for your contribution. Please stay with us. I will come back to you in a little bit for the panel discussion as well.
Thank you very much.
So the next guest who we're going to be welcoming to BuildHERS live stream is Stephen Law. Stephen is a facilitator and coach specializing in conflict mediation and the lead shift change instructor for the gender inclusive leadership training in Manitoba. Welcome, Stephen.
Hello. Nice to be here.
We're glad to have you. As we've seen so far on BuildHERS, a few of the men who have been taking the training are quite candid and open about their experiences, especially relaying interactions with women on the job. How do you work towards getting the participants to make this kind of breakthrough?
Well, it's really about being in touch with their own stories and their own connections to women in their own lives. And so when we're able to make them connect and understand that, the training and any training around gender inclusion is really a training about supporting the women in their own lives, even though the women in their own lives may not be working in the industry. The women who are in the industry are mothers, daughters, sisters, for all kinds of other people. And when you make a personal connection with the guys and they begin to understand that it's not a theoretical thing that we're talking about, it's not a political agenda that we're putting forward, but it's about people finding the places where they themselves connect to people they care about, and how can they create environments with all the other people that they're working with to find ways in which those environments can be welcoming and help people to thrive in the workplace in the best way possible.
Can you tell us about some of the biggest myths and misconceptions the men you train have about women and all the genders in the construction industry?
Well, I think the myths are pervasive in right across society, and they include everything from, women aren't strong enough or don't want to work in the trades because it's dirty or it's not of an interest to them. They'd rather do other kinds of professions. When in fact, when we talk to the women who work in trades, they love working in the trades. They chose the trades particularly because of the ability to have some working outside or working with their hands or doing those kinds of things. So there's all kinds of myths around strength. Women aren't strong enough, and yet the reality is that the situations around strength have nothing to do with gender. They have to do with the person. So there are men who may not be able to lift 50 pounds daily 15 times, equally as there would maybe perhaps be women. And so the leveraging and the changes in technology which support better and safer workplaces for everyone is actually a benefit to everyone, not just having women there, and the changes that take place in the workplace aren't changes that are detrimental to men, but in fact those changes are beneficial to men as well. And so, those are some of the things that we talk about and we take apart and we look at and examine and let the men actually talk freely and openly about those concerns, because they need to name what their ideas are, their concerns, their thinking, because that's the only way we can move forward to be able to kind of create the best environments possible for women in the workplaces, women and diverse genders.
Love your perspective, and the way you've actually answered the question is truly interesting and really great to see, how this training just creates that diversity and inclusion and just make women, enjoy the workplace. That's beautiful. I have one more question for you. How do you measure the effectiveness and the impact of the training program in terms of promoting gender inclusive leadership within participating construction firms?
Part of the training itself is that the men have to take action following the course, real concrete action. And the last day of the course, they name what actions they're going to take, and we follow up with them 6 to 8 weeks later, and we check in with did they do those actions? What did they do? What are the challenges they faced when they were trying to do that? And of the over 100 men we've trained in Nova Scotia, almost every single one of them has done different kinds of actions. And those actions range from intervening when they hear something inappropriate in the workplace and changing sort of that cultural conversation that goes on, the banter that may happen, towards much greater kinds of interventions around disclosures or around actively promoting hiring of women that they maybe would have overlooked in other circumstances. So the actions are both personal as well as systemic. And like I say, we've had almost to a person, every single guy that we've trained has taken action in their workplace. And that's where the shift change happens and where transformation takes place.
That's great. I like the fact that they're actually taking action. That's a beautiful thing. Okay, so now let's bring back all our guests for a brief wrap-up and panel discussion, encouraging you all to jump in whenever you have a point to add. So thank you everyone for coming back. So I'm gonna just throw the question and you can jump in, like I said. My first question to the group is, how can the construction industry support the male participants that complete the gender inclusive leadership training after it is completed?
I can jump in. I think there's a responsibility for the employers to promote and educate. We're going to be sending a couple individuals for the training, but our plan from there is to have those individuals come back. We're going to be doing some lunch and learns, share it with the rest of the team, and promote, celebrate it. We don't want it to end with a couple of people getting training. That's not going to move the needle. We want to be able to take what we've learned and share it with the rest of the group and grow that knowledge and grow those skills. So that's from our perspective, that's one of the things that we want to do.
Okay. Does anyone want to add to that?
I guess what I would add is that we understand this is floor to ceiling work, and that we all need this kind of training and understanding and all levels of a company. And what we have heard and what we have found is that when we're training a level of supervisors or lead hands or crews, that's great and that's important. But sometimes that kind of runs up against the management up above, or the higher levels, and that group of people also, not because they're adverse or they don't want to do kind of the right thing or do things well. It's just, in many times, they're not sure even what that looks like. And so we're looking at trying to figure out how we can do this work from floor to ceiling and make sure that it right across a company, that all folks are able to have a better enhanced understanding and help people be welcome and thrive in the workplace.
All right. Thank you for that, Stephen. So I have another question, and anyone as well can feel free to answer. For men or male leaders who are watching this segment and thinking, I don't need this kind of training at all, what are the benefits or the return on investment in gender inclusive leadership training?
When I was reading about this training, I was thinking about how great this would be to not just the person receiving the training, but the people working with that person receiving the training. So I think that this training is going to bring a good impact to the person taking that training. But I think maybe somebody else will feel that good feeling at work. Maybe it's a female on your crew, or maybe it's someone who didn't quite know how to have those difficult conversations. And I think we all take work really seriously. It's a big part of our lives and our day-to-days. And so sometimes what we're doing at work, we can bring home with us at the end of the day, whether it's a mood or an attitude. So I even think when you're promoting well-being and equity and inclusion at work, hopefully the good impacts are trickling down to the people who are receiving that, as well as maybe the people that you're interacting with throughout your life and day to day.
Thank you, Jillian, for that contribution. I have one last question, which is, what advice would you offer to other construction companies looking to implement similar gender inclusive leadership training programs?
I guess what I would say to that is, and kind of connected to what Steve was saying, is that we need to be doing lots of different things at the many levels of the organization. So this is a plug into that sort of middle management area, into people who don't often get a chance to talk about how difficult it is to work with difference and have the space to do that well, and the amount of stress and anxiety for a leader to, enable his whole or their whole team to do well in the workplace. And so I think this course is complementary, and there should be other things happening all across the organization. And to that other point, companies should be thinking about, how do you enable the conversation to continue? So these trainings are a way to get it started, but how do you want to keep that workplace culture change that's going to benefit everybody on the site going? And how do you let people keep that energy going?
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you very much for our guests for joining us today, and for all your important insights and telling us more about the benefits of the gender inclusive leadership training.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is about all the time we have today for MCSC's BuildHERS live stream, where we showcase remarkable women in construction who are building better lives for everyone. I'm your host, Lynda Ori. If you like MCSC BuildHERS, please subscribe or like us below. Click the like button, and don't forget to follow MCSC on social media. If you want to learn more about MCSC and to view our past live streams, please visit mbcsc.com, and that is mbcsc.com. Thanks for watching. Bye now.
Thank you for watching MCSC's BuildHERS, where we showcase remarkable women in construction who are building better lives for everyone.